Hello everyone and welcome back guys to a brand new video where today we're here doing something a little bit different. Now a couple of times in recent months we have done some sort of discussion type videos on the channel, and today with obviously real life NASCAR and IndyCar already having returned over the last 2-3 weeks and F1 now less than 3 weeks away from its return at the Austrian Grand Prix, I thought I'd discuss sim racing, obviously something that is very close to my heart at the end of the day, as I'm sure many of you are aware. Now, obviously, it's going to be put on the back burner for the next while, you know, for probably, as I'll just go on to discuss in the course of this video, probably, I reckon, until about Christmas. But after, you know, for the most part, the success of things such as the Virtual Le Mans 24 last weekend, obviously George Russell claiming the F1 Virtual GP Championship as well, and actually a lot of stories and controversies coming out in the last 12 months. I mean, when you look back at it, it's actually mad just how many sort of quite what seemed big stories at the time have come out over the last couple of months from the sim racing community. You know, you had things like obviously the Simon Pagenaud incident, Daniel Abt as well, just to name a couple to kick it off. You know, where is sim racing going to be going next? Like I said at the start, obviously I'm a big fan of sim racing and esports in general. I don't think that's any surprise to my regular viewers. Some of you, you know, have watched me upload league racing content for the best part now of 5 years, which actually seems quite crazy when I think about it, just how much, you know, sort of esports and sim racing content I've made over the last few years. You know, it seems crazy when you look back what else you would have spent that time doing. But yeah, you know, certainly no regrets from my end. But yeah, personally, I wonder, you know, now we've captured this whole new audience of real-life racing fans who've obviously still wanted to get their fix and have had to move over to the virtual world and accept that was what it was going to be for the last couple of months. How will that momentum change, and are we going to see a lot of those people sticking around over the, you know, for the foreseeable future, I think is the question that a lot of people are going to be asking. Now, people like Lando Norris have always been streaming and, you know, had great positive effects on esports and sim racing in general over the last couple of years. You know, after he gained popularity over on Twitch, like understandably he would. Obviously, he's a person that gets a lot of attention on him anyway. But, you know, he's a great personality to have. You know, we always saw this from last year in F1, you know, him, George Russell and Alexander Albon as well. You know, they were always great together anyway, and the fact that he sort of had this other side to him as well that I think a lot more younger people could connect with, I think really has helped Formula 1 as well. You know, it was losing its younger audience. You know, there's very, you know, a nice tight-knit Twitter community for the most part, but generally speaking, F1 is still a sport that's mainly followed by the older generation. I think it's fair to say. But yeah, Lando Norris sort of brought new light to it, sort of gained it a lot of exposure, that I think a lot of people have really been able to connect with him as well. You know, you've also got the likes of Max Verstappen, for example, who is basically, you know, he's been as good in sim racing as he has been in the real world of motorsport for the, you know, sort of the last 5 years as well. He's always been one of those brilliant people that you can say it quite clearly helps on the real race circuit, because look what he's able to do in sim racing as well. You know, it's actually crazy just how good Max Verstappen and Lando Norris are, understandably, in the sims as well. Obviously, they won the 2019 Spa 24 Hours. I'm sure many of you do remember, and that was sort of one of the first big exposures to sim racing that we saw. But obviously, we've seen some virtual GPs coming from F1. Are we going to see those throughout the rest of the season? I'm very inclined at the moment to say no. Real racing drivers, you know, they need their time away as well. Obviously, you know, racing on a real circuit one weekend and then heading into an event online the next weekend is just, I don't think, going to be something that a lot of them will want to do week in, week out. You know, they probably do quite enjoy. Although, don't get me wrong, I'm well aware, obviously, of just how intense a Formula 1 driver's life probably is all the time. I think being able to just take some time away is good, but also something that they'll only want to do when they want to do it. It won't be like, for example, we'll have a real-life Austrian Grand Prix, and then say on the Wednesday night, they've then got to do another 50% race against each other. A lot of them just won't want to do that at the end of the day. But if I was in the position of power, you know, to decide when I would be planning sort of my next esports big project, I would very much be looking towards the Christmas and New Year period in terms of sim racing. So when you, obviously it just makes sense, at least to me, when I think about it. Obviously, F1 drivers, by that point, they'll have a lot of free time on their hands. You know, it's going to be a very, very intense second half of the real world of motorsport. You know, the next 5 months are going to have a lot of racing going on, you know, all across the world, which is going to be brilliant for the fans. But obviously, once that all ends in early December, in Formula One's case and everything like that, that racing itch doesn't go away for the drivers. And although, yes, they may want to spend some time, you know, with their friends and family, there will always be plenty of laps that need turning in the simulators. And to be honest, if you can get eyes on that and you can get some interest in on that as well, obviously whilst you're trying not to get rusty, companies, teams, sponsors, everything like that, they're all going to want to see that as well. And obviously these virtual GPs and everything like that were originally just meant to be a bit of fun. You know, they were all originally planned as a bit of a distraction, as an escape from obviously the events that are going on in the real world all around us. But they very, very quickly, obviously, like most things do, it turns into marketing tools for companies. You know, you look at Fanatec, for example. I know they've been having issues, and you can check their website. They've got nothing basically in stock now until, what, August, September? And, you know, their back orders are completely overswamped as well. You know, it's been mad just looking at how little stuff there is available to buy in terms of sim racing. And obviously, although it's very, very difficult to get accurate figures as well, I'm really, really intrigued to know just how many more copies F1 2020 is going to sell on release over F1 2019. Because at the end of the day, a lot of people have seen these drivers having a lot of fun on the games. And I can't be the only person, you know, when you see someone having fun on a game, you want to try that game out as well. That's just the way it works. iRacing, another one, has seen a huge boom, and now, you know, I've personally, obviously, where I use iRacing a bit as well, you get on the main page for members, obviously you get how many people are online at the moment. Now, a year ago, that was around 2,000 or 3,000 for the most part. It's normally nowadays 8,000-9,000. It's quite often you see it in the 5 figures, which is just crazy to think about as well. And obviously with more members comes more competition. With more competition obviously comes more eyes, because people want to see the best of the very, very best all battling it out for supremacy as well. And obviously with more eyes should turn into more prize money. That's just the way it works. Sponsors, you know, and companies want to pay for where people are looking at the end of the day. That's how sponsorship works. That's basic marketing as well. This is where I feel sim racing needs to take its next step. Late last year, we saw, I think it was Quanda SimSport announced that obviously their racing team, they'd actually purchased a sim racing house, obviously for a few of their drivers, so they could obviously hone their skills and progress further. Now, gaming houses generally, I think, have still quite a negative stigma, and although sim racing isn't always as team-based as sort of more popular esports titles such as CSGO, houses, you know, these sorts of places and facilities have always proven, you know, there's lots of research gone into it. Companies wouldn't pay hundreds of thousands of pounds to get people to live with each other if it wasn't worth it at the end of the day. And although sim racing right now is on the precipice of, you know, being a full-time opportunity for a lot of people, you know, it already is for quite a few, don't get me wrong, but I really do feel like the next 12 months could completely explode it into something even bigger than it already has become in the more recent times. But unfortunately, there seems to be one big issue. It's outside of most people, you know, especially from the competitive aspect. It is just the software, unfortunately. Now, like I mentioned at the start, the Virtual Le Mans 24 was, for the most part, a success. Now, obviously, as I'm sure many of you are aware, it was ran on a simulator called R-Factor 2. Very, very good tyre physics, everything like that. You know, the simulation side of things on there are incredible. There's no getting around it. It is just a brilliant, brilliant sim. It sometimes, in my personal opinion, feels like you're on a bit too much of a knife edge. But for the most part, you know, it is a fantastic simulator. Unfortunately, its UI is beyond unusable, and there have been bugs in R-Factor that have been around for so many years at this point that still have never been fixed, that you really do question. You know, for me, unfortunately, you know, with the lack of ease to get on multiplayer and just race people like you can on things like Assetto Corsa sim racing system, obviously iRacing's whole software is completely based around racing online. F1, you know, it's easy to just jump into a sprint mode or even just find leagues, everything like that. R-Factor, for me, as someone that hasn't used it all too much but has done a bit of league racing, it's the main reason I don't play it a lot more than I do. It's just not user-friendly. At the end of the day, there's no way of looking around it. Now, unfortunately, every single sim, when you think about it, seems to have that big issue that a lot of people struggle with. Now, rFactor is certainly not alone in this department. For example, iRacing, you know, its paywall is, I'll be honest, although I'm someone that does pay for it, and it's difficult to describe to someone that's never used it, but really, really easy to justify to someone that has. You know, it's a horrible, horrible game in that sense of people look at you and think you're mad when you sort of give them the figures that you're willing to spend on iRacing, but once you've got into it, it very much hooks you. And, you know, its GT physics as well are probably one of its biggest bugbearers. You know, they have made some good changes to it in recent times, as many of you will know that watch my second channel where I upload a lot of iRacing content. You'll know just how many positive things I've had to say about iRacing in recent weeks. You can actually now think about using the ABS in GT3 cars, which is a lot better than it was. Its physics still in some cars are not anywhere near where you'd want them to be. And obviously I know a lot of people therefore have been drawing comparisons between iRacing's dodgy GT physics and an Assetto Corsa's impeccable, you know, physics. You know, it's mastered the GT3 field and is great for that. But again, ACC has no other content apart from GT3s. Now, I know, obviously, GT4 cars are coming at the end of the year, and I'm well aware, obviously, it is just a Blancpain GT Championship game. It basically makes it impossible for any other series to think, yes, you know what, we'll run our big event on Assetto Corsa Competizione, because there's just nothing you can do. Now, obviously, there's a few other sims that offer a wide variety of content. You know, two big examples for me are always going to be Race Room and Assetto Corsa. I still have got a lot of love for both of those games. They tick the boxes in terms of content. There is not much you can't do on either of those sims, especially, you know, with Assetto Corsa's modding capabilities. They don't have any driver swaps, which for a lot of bigger events is very, very difficult. And unfortunately as well, they don't quite have the numbers to back it up either. Now, I genuinely believe one day we're going to get a game that ticks off all of these boxes. You know, its UI is brilliant, its physics, you know, as close to real life as it's going to be possible to be. It's got a nice variety of cars, you know, from different series and everything like that. And, you know, it allows for different race styles, sprint style stuff. Obviously, more endurance racing, you know, 24-hour virtual races are very much a big thing at the moment. It could completely dominate the market. If one game can tick all those boxes, there is no looking back. It will just be a success at the end of the day. And yeah, like I said, I think it's possible, but we're a few years away from it, and it doesn't look like any sim at the moment. You know, it's money at the end of the day. You would need an impossible amount of budget to be able to make that, and unfortunately the eyes aren't there just yet, but you really do hope, you know, if we continue to build on where we're at the moment, could that be a possibility in the near future? Could we be finding that, say, in 2025, you know, we're talking about sim racing events being as prestigious as the real life things, because so many real life drivers want to be able to get in and everything like that. That is something I love to see as well. Now, personally, like I said, I think sim racing events now are probably, you know, for the real life drivers, gonna take a step back to the end of the year. But yeah, like I said, can you imagine that, say, 2023, we've got a virtual Le Mans that many Formula 1 drivers want to get involved with, a virtual Monaco Grand Prix, you know, 100% race, people are qualifying and doing races, like, say you get, like, Speed Week, for example, or something like that, so you get the top 20 sim racers or real life drivers that are on the sims from IndyCar, NASCAR, Formula 1, everywhere, all the GT racing, everything like that, that they're all battling out so they can race at the Monaco Grand Prix against each other. The same with the Indy 500, you know, we're watching Lando Norris in 5 years' time getting incited in front of 100,000 viewers as he looks to try and complete the virtual triple crown, you know, that would have real world weight to it. Now, I know a lot of people are still always against this whole sim racing isn't real, anything like that. But, you know, the virtual Le Mans 24 at the weekend, that carried some weight, that carried some prestige to it. Can you imagine if we had, in the near future, you know, Formula 1 is talking about this sort of thing more and more often. You know, you've got Martin Brundle going, yeah, Lando Norris, 5-time Grand Prix winner with McLaren, you know, virtual GP, triple crown champion, something like that. All that sort of thing, you know, that sim racing is then closer and closer to on par with the real world of motorsport. Now, do I see that happening just yet? No, to be honest. I think we're still a few years away from that. It would be incredible to see, don't get me wrong, you know, I'd love for at some point, you know, that real racing drivers are thinking, actually, you know what, I want to really put some effort into this event, and, you know, you get 20 of the best drivers in the world coming together. I know, obviously, that's, you know, from all different series that are just going all out because they want to win, you know, this virtual Le Mans 24, for example, or they want to win this virtual Monaco Grand Prix that's got all these sort of eyes watching it. Not even prize pools necessarily, obviously, because, as I'm sure it's well documented, racing drivers, real life drivers get these sorts of opportunities. But you also, say for example, get sim races that, say for example, the virtual Monaco Grand Prix is held in Monaco. You know, you got 20 simulators down. I know that obviously they do some esports events down at La Rascasse, everything like that. Say the winner gets to go on the podium, like we saw from the virtual Le Mans 24 in 2019 even, with the Le Mans Esports Championship. You know, that could very much be a thing where, you know, you've got these sim races, and we've already started to see it more and more, you know, with McLaren's World Fastest Gamer and everything like that. Companies and teams are starting to understand the importance of sim racing more and more. It's now a case of just trying to build it and market it as its own thing. This is what I always feel is the difficult point for sim racing is not all sim racers want to be real racing drivers. That's just not how it works for some people. Some just love the competition in the sim, everything like that. Now, sim racing, yeah, it's been pushed into the spotlight in the recent weeks, and for the most part, I think it's handled its newfound fame very, very well. It's had a lot of punches thrown at it at the end of the day, and it's certainly not perfect, but it is on the precipice of, I think, honestly, taking a major revolutionary step where it does carry a prestige, not on the same level as real motorsport. I think that's just never quite going to be the case, but on a very, very close level where, you know, for example, you've got Charles Leclerc talking, you know, discussing things with virtual Monaco Grand Prix winner or something like that. You never know what could happen with it in the future. But yeah, to sort of wrap it up then, sim racing, I feel we are very, very close to the next big step. I think Christmas time is now going to be where we're going to be looking at when the next big progress is going to be coming, but there's still a long, long way to go at the end of the day as well. But that'll do us though for this video though, guys. Let me know your thoughts and feelings down in the comments below as to what you think is the next big step for sim racing. Where do you think it'll be in, you know, sort of 5 years time? I'd love to get a bit of discussion going with you guys as well. But yeah, like I said, that'll do us for this one though. Do make sure you get yourself subscribed. Leave a like if you enjoyed this sort of video as well, and hopefully I will see you all in the next video.